Okay. Iiksiksikoyiítahtaa, good day. It is the afternoon of Saturday, the 4th of July, 2020. In the middle of the lunar cycle, Iiksiksikoyiítahtaa, the long rains. And I have a feeling that tonight is going to be an extra crazy fireworks celebration night in the States, in spite of everything. Maybe I'll be wrong, but it seems to me like all of the hardships of 2020 that we've bore thus far, halfway through the annual cycle, all those hardships are going to really provoke the MAGA people to just put it all on this 4th of July. Let it go. And let's get those corona numbers spiking again. As if they weren't already. It was very interesting. Yesterday I went to, should update on my eye, obviously. This morning I'm out for a walk. As you can see, I'm at the storm pond that is at the intersect between the Highlands or not the Highlands, the Uplands, because Highlands are on the west side. Here on the north side, they're the Uplands. The Uplands and Legacy Ridge. So this is a big storm pond between the two subdivisions, and I haven't really come walking around here yet to see like what are the potentials here with this new, like it's not new this pond, but all of the kind of newer subdivisions of Lethbridge have them. Hey, how goes it? Pretty good. Yeah, all the newer subdivisions of Lethbridge have it. So I was only fortunate once to live in a subdivision with a storm pond anything like this in Riverstone. It wasn't even nearly this big. And some of them are being built, specifically to be habitat for a lot of wildlife. So it's inviting my future in mitigations, basically. So I should get to know all of these places. And I thought today would be a good day to take a big long walk. My leg is feeling good after it's now been past 6 weeks with the healing leg injury. Ryan First Diver, or if you go to it's Ryan First Diver on YouTube. Okay. Or if you go to Rattlesnakes of Lethbridge on Facebook, you can find one of my YouTube videos in there and link through. You bet. So my leg is feeling good, and I figured today was an auspicious day to take a big long walk. I needed to go get a prescription for my eye. Yesterday I was able to go see my doctor. This is only the second time I've seen this doctor. He's a new doctor for me. My old doctor had skipped out, I guess because of health reasons, and so this guy saw me for my torn calf muscle and was preparing to see me to set me up for the physiotherapy for the torn calf muscle. I guess let's explore this way. See where this leads. I don't really know these neighborhoods well, but I know that I have to go this toward the west, where I'm gonna go check on one of my raccoon traps. Anyhow, I got to go see my doctor, and he was quite shocked when he saw the condition of my eye. In fact, he seemed rather panicked, and he says, I have to get you to a specialist immediately, like right now. Kind of sat in front of me and, you are having a medical emergency. Which I know, that's what I've been saying all week, but I don't know, the holidays, I think by the time I was really ready to see a doctor and thought it was serious, the Canadian version of the 4th of July was on, and then it was too late, you know. And then Thursday I called my doctor, had to go through the whole hoops of pink eye being a COVID symptom thing. Tomorrow, in fact, I'm still scheduled to go get a COVID test because of that. And then when I was able to make the appointment with my doctor, it was only for Friday, and then he had to send me late in the day to Medicine Hat, which is about 2.5 hour drive away. Chelsea took me out there yesterday and got me to see an emergency ophthalmologist, and he really looked in my eye and, you know, put some different fluids in there, scoped it out, did some tests with me. And while I got the impression from my general practice doctor that I am in serious danger of losing my vision, the ophthalmologist was a little bit more casual. Although he did say we need to treat this vigorously, we need to start it right now. He didn't suggest that it couldn't be fixed. So I'm more hopeful now that I will regain my vision, but how bad it is that he took the eye chart off the wall and held it about like 15 inches in front of my face, and I couldn't read anything. I mean, I could make out, in my field of vision from the right eye, there's like a little narrow strip down the left-hand side of light that's coming in, and light and color, and it's very blurred. And so out of that little strip, I was able to make out, I think, the top letter of the chart, and then maybe one letter on the next row down, the letter most to the left, that kind of thing. We got a garage sale. Anything interesting? Garage sales are always fun. Where was I? Okay. Anyway, I couldn't read jack. My vision is messed up. That's why I was saying in the last video that I do have a little bit of fear in there that I could lose my vision in this eye. The first 3 days with it, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, there was so much pain and stuff involved, and then it seemed to like almost the pain deadened, and I started worrying that my eye is deadening too, because there's no vision coming back with the deadening of the pain. So, and the way that my doctor freaked out, he's like, you know, I could hear him on the phone talking to the emergency ophthalmologist. He's like, the cornea is completely opaque, and, you know, he was very concerned. But the ophthalmologist seemed more like it's a situation that can probably be handled, but it has to be treated vigorously. So he wanted me to get my medication started. He put me on a 1 drop twice a day, or 2 drops twice a day, that kind of like dilates my eye, and then another drop every half hour that is the antibiotic. So I got an antibiotic drip in my eye, 1 little drip every half hour, and then the ointment that I'm supposed to put in my eye for the nights. But last night I was not able to get the ointment. I went straight to because we were at the emergency room in Medicine Hat pretty late. went straight to the nearest pharmacy and got 2 of the 3 prescriptions, and they couldn't give me the ointment. They said they wouldn't have that till Monday or something. And I said, well, I'll just get it here in Lethbridge. So part of my morning hike has been to go to my drugstore and pick up that ointment. And I feel like I could actually, well, I know I could actually drive these kind of short distances, you know, a few kilometers here or there, near to my house on the north side. I feel confident in that right now, but I also wanted to get some exercise. So here we are, walking through Legacy Ridge now. Yeah, so that was one of the reasons for my walk. Get the exercise, get the prescription, and then on top of that, I gotta go check that raccoon house that I've had no success at. And in fact, I have had no success at all of my raccoon houses at current. And I don't understand that, because even during the nursing times, I still usually have a minimal bit of success, but doesn't seem to be this season. Something's going on with the raccoons, and I just am not able to catch them. I don't understand it. Hey, how are you?
How are you?
Anyway, we'll go check out the raccoon house. I probably got to put a drip in my eye anyway, and then we'll get back to some video further along in the hike. Okay, I have arrived at my client's house, and sure enough, there's nobody in the trap, as there has been nobody all along. The only animal I've caught here so far has been a cat, even though on my video feed, just keeping the camera here a couple of nights, I saw there were both raccoons and skunks still on the property. This is a house that's being sold. Of course, it's not good to sell a house that has a attic crawl space full of raccoon family. So they'd like them extracted, but so far it's not working. I've had this trap here a while. I'm going to leave a little bit of, what is this, Fancy Feast. I bought this for Thumper, thinking he might like it, but he prefers the dry kibble to this stuff. So I'm going to leave it here. See if maybe the raccoons will have any interest in it, even enough to just sniff their way into the trap. I don't know, though. By the way, I have a correction to make. That whole entire last scene was shot within the subdivision of the Uplands. And the storm pond itself was in the middle of the Uplands. It wasn't between the Uplands and Legacy Ridge. I realized, arriving here to my client's house, which is at the edge of the Uplands, that really Legacy Ridge is going to start in another block or so west. So we'll get there. But right now, still Uplands. Just as a technicality, because I know I'm going to get somebody on there who says, oh, it's not Legacy Ridge. They'll probably still say that because they only watch up to that point in the video, and we can see on the comments what happens there. So I'm going to put some Fancy Feast here, and then maybe talk to you a little bit more about my history with my eyes, because it's not terribly surprising for me to end up in this situation, I don't think. And there are some synchronicities that I think are interesting to note. So we'll get to that. But right now, I'm going to set my trap. Alright, here's the official transition. I've crossed the road. I don't know what road what that road is called, but it goes down to Pavan Park. And there's the uplands that I left. And now I'm officially entering Legacy Ridge, wherein lies probably another storm pond that I haven't really explored too much. In fact, I'm sure there's one. And also Alexander Wilderness Park. Might pop in there, I don't know. I feel like continuing my hike. I've probably gone 5-6 kilometers. Not huge distance, and I'm not in any racing pace or anything, but I'm just getting some outdoor time, some leg exercise, you know, having spent a few days basically in bed or seated on a chair, you know, and then the last couple of days just in, you know, a little bit of going here, going there, but I definitely have some cabin fever. Magpies, all the magpie families are training their fledglings of the year. Yeah, when I get eye problems, I get thinky, because I've had, you know, vision issues all my life, of course. And then in my adult life, I've had several bouts with eye infections and things. Nothing as bad as this one, but several pretty decent bouts. And I don't know, I have a history. I've talked about pieces of it in different videos before. I know I've talked about how, you know, when I was growing up, I was an ugly duckling. Not that I'm any charmer now, but I had, you know, I had these thick goggles and glasses, and I had, you know, my hair was big, homemade haircuts, homemade clothes, and I don't know, I just, you know, I wasn't that good looking. My teeth grew in all weird, my jaw was too narrow, had to do 4 or 5 years of orthodontic work at my parents' expense to fix my mouth up enough that I'd be attractive to a girl. And when I turned 16, there was a shift. Like everything, all the work to kind of pull my physical appearance into some kind of order that would be good to launch into young adulthood came together around 16 or 17, and I got like, my mom took me on a shopping spree. I bought store-bought clothes, bunch of them, and I got contact lenses instead of eyeglasses, and I still didn't get any, you know, I didn't go to any professional haircut place. I still don't, but I got a better haircut. Mahoney has lots of evidence of that. I look like I'm pretty sure I could be making some money off a claim against Mike Judge for his character Butthead, because if you put thick glasses on Butthead, that was me. And I got shaped up a little bit, and the big shift was glasses to contacts, because right away I started getting girl attention for that shift. And so, you know, I paid a lot of attention to that. It made me do a lot of thinking over my life, because it was really evident that was all that it took to open up a gateway to having dates that I would have never had if I was wearing the genetic defect symbolized in glasses on my face. And I've talked about all of this stuff before. In fact, I did a video about legacy, because one of the kind of deeper thoughts that I've had in regard to this, thing that happened to me at 16 years old, one of the deeper thoughts that I had was that, people think of their legacy as something they individually do in their lifetime. But in reality, we don't know how much an individual is actually ripples into the future. We certainly don't remember the contributors past, most of them past a couple hundred years, and when you get into the 1,000 years out, you're counting on a hand, right? So legacy that people strive for is actually short-lived compared to the legacy that we make with our actual evolution of our organism. And so when I look at the thing that we're doing with contact lenses, with radiokeratonomy, with all of these corrective things, even glasses as a start, because if you were born as I was with really bad nearsightedness, you're not going to make it, I don't think, in the past, or your life is going to be very affected, and most likely truncated, and not as full, I wouldn't think, before these corrective devices start coming out, right? So, not to say that societies were any, out to like kill people that had birth defects or anything, but I'm just saying, like, what's your role gonna be? It's gonna be drastically affected by your vision if you have bad vision in the past. But as we start developing corrective devices to aid the bad vision, then we have a situation where the lives of those with that birth defect, or with that mutation, I shouldn't say defect, but with that mutation, the lives of those people are, I hope this wind is not really fucking things up. It probably is. The lives of those people are not going to be as truncated. The mutation is going to be passed more often. And so you're looking at developing many, many more numbers of humans in the future with nearsightedness. Those numbers, apparently, given my experience, would jump significantly in the era of contact lenses and radiokeratonomy, when you can physically hide the genetic defect as well. Not defect, the mutation. So, in today's time, I could, if I took good care of myself, didn't take any risks, probably pass through without having these kind of difficulties to betray that are actually my weak point. In one of my weak points is my eyes. Hey, this is a weakness exposed. Same way, my lack of flexibility training is a weak point that was exposed in the busting of my calf muscles. And probably poor nutrition in that one as well, and other factors. But when you look at the long-term legacy, what I see happening is that there will be, potentially a day to come when every human born has that mutation, has a degree of mutation where they cannot see at what we would consider 20/20 vision today, or whatever, right? Good vision today. And they'll have to probably have a medical procedure right off the hop, or some kind of aid and consideration for that. And that is going to carry on thousands, perhaps millions of years into whatever the future of our descendants and different lineages become, should they continue. So, these are the kind of things I get thinking of when I have eye issues. I had the experience when I was 16. I had another childhood experience. I've talked about, in different videos, some of my growing up. And one of the things I've talked about was a red-tailed hawk that I followed around in my teens, out kind of on the countryside, asking for it to show me things, and it was just like panicked, I think, that I was in the area, always paying attention to it, and it would always fly away from me, but I would follow wherever it flew, because in my mind it was guiding me to my next lesson. So I had one experience where the hawk led me to and really stayed there and showed me, as though it was guiding me to the paw of what I recognized right away as a mole, because I had found lots of mole carcasses in the past. And so I always wondered about that, and I picked up that paw, and I actually still have it today. It's one of the things, like in a little bag of things that are very precious to me, that I've kept even in the separation from Mahoney, that I made sure not to leave the house without. And I've always wondered about that paw, and I've always thought it had some relation to blindness, and it was some message to me. And maybe it was a curse by that hawk that I was annoying all of that time. I don't think so, because that hawk, I later had a dream that gave me something else. It actually gave it to Justine, but my daughter, but through my dream. Anyway, so I've got all of these histories of experience of negotiating the issues with my eyes. I've had bad periods of infection before, like I say, not as bad as this, where I actually fear losing my vision. But the doctors thought it was bad and thought I was in danger of losing vision. But not like the way that I feel now, because I can actually not see, through my eye, and it freaks me out. And then I also see a synchronicity going on right now with Derek, because Derek has been my magpie ally has been just over a decade with me now, and through all kinds of experiences, and he's going through a transition, and he's obviously lost sight in his right eye, because it's completely hazed over like a cloud. So, and I know he can't see anymore. It's restricted his vision, and it's allowed him to have some experiences that I wasn't giving him before, not since he was very young, like bringing him outside and feeling the wind through his feathers and all of that kind of thing. But I find it interesting that, you know, Derek's right eye is out of commission right now, and mine is in, I think, a serious threat, you know. And so that's kind of my update, I guess, on what's going on with my eye. We'll wait and see, you know, what transpires, but I have some confidence now after visiting the ophthalmologist that we're gonna be able to pull out of this. You know, one of his comments in particular was, for sure, you're not going to be wearing contact lenses in that eye for 6 to 8 weeks, probably much longer. Hey, and I wouldn't think he would even mention, like he would be thinking, oh, I'm concerned about when I can put a lens back in there, because I can't see, you know. So I don't know. But that little comment itself kind of gave me a clue that, you know, there's going to come a point in that, potentially in that time frame of 6 to 8 weeks, when I'm going to feel like I'm regaining enough that I might chance doing that. Hey, I think that was the warning. Don't chance that, as though I would be thinking to do that. So that gives me some hope. But in either case, I've already, like, you know, made the shift in my mind, I think, that say I lose any vision, any degree of more vision in my right eye, up to, you know, basically being blind in that eye, you know, I don't think it's going to throw me for a huge loop. I have to be 3 months off the road. I've already checked into that, but I can drive one-eyed after being, like, having a status of this disability for 3 months, if that comes to that. So, you know, I'm trying to think of what's next. You know, what am I going to jump into? There's a lot of things I can do. You know, I am actually a really decent writer. I can shift into doing some of that. You know, as far as future for Ryan, if Ryan ended up suddenly with one eye missing, I don't know. I don't think it's going to be much of a. I mean, it's obviously it's a big. It's not cool to lose an eye, but if it was to come to that, you know, it's not the end of the world. So it's my perspective. Just walking their green strip toward Alexander Wilderness Park, and seeing that there are ground squirrel populations all through in here. So of course this green strip here draws bull snakes up into it, going after all of the squirrels that people call gophers. You can hear them whistling. They won't show themselves close enough to this camera. Anyhow, I'm going to continue my walk, and if anything more that I want to bring up or show you or what have you comes about, I will. Otherwise, keramatsi nohpoa. Well. It looks like Alexandria Wilderness Park is closed, gated, probably the road was so saturated by the last storms. There might have been mudslides. We're gonna go walk down and see. This is actually a good opportunity because I was thinking maybe I'd walk out, out over the prairie here to look out over the river at whatever point I could that way, kind of at the upstream end of the park. But what I would rather do really is walk down this road and check out what is the situation for berry gathering right now. I'm thinking particularly about the currents along the roadside here. So given that traffic is not allowed to come down right now, that's a perfect opportunity. Let's go see what the berries are looking like. Oh, here we have our first view. Still quite green, not ready to harvest, but I've always seen, driving up and down this road, lots and lots of currants. And even though it gets dusty, I always thought, gee, I should just come out here and harvest a little bit, because it's so available. Tart. Not quite ready. Who we got here? Not the best camera to see this with. Maybe I'll switch over. iPhone. Hopefully this is a bit better. Not sure who this is. Assuming though, she belongs to the families in the thickets here. So just gonna go around this way, not to chase her to the other side of the road. Lots of birds nested up and down the valley here. This is really one of my favorite drives, going down the hill. I often come by and just drive up and down once or twice the end of my day or whatever, because it's close to home and I like to see what's going on. Usually some deer and lots of bird activity and the occasional athlete. So mama whitetail and her fawn. Here is one of the boys. Iiksiksikoyiítahtaa. Iiksiksikoyiítahtaa. Had to remind myself the Blackfoot name that I want to start calling this park, Alexander Wilderness Park. Iiksiksikoyiítahtaa, after the rapids that occur in the river here. I always like this little oasis of runoff coming down this sub-coulee with the red and black coal slag in the background. Some years, lots of cattails and stuff. Been paying attention to the erosion on the side of the road here. There's quite a bit that I don't see as well when I'm driving, but you don't want to hug this rail coming up the road. There are some places that I've looked at that walking down here that look pretty dangerous. Risk behaviors. I think some of my thoughts recently in regard to the eye, but also probably more so coming out of the COVID experience, it's been around risk behaviors because now we're going to get a big wind. Can't tell whether it's interfering or not. I haven't figured out what is the angle of the wind that works or doesn't work with this camera and with the buffer that I have. Any case, I'll trudge on as though it doesn't matter. One of the things that's happening is that there is pressure from a lot of people that we should, as a collective, appreciate that COVID is not what we originally feared it would be. That even though we don't entirely understand it at this point, its level of threat for most of us that don't have hugely compromised immune systems is minimal, and so we should go back to daily life. And there have been very public figures like some of Joe Rogan and his buddies who I follow. I listen to their podcasts and stuff. Comedians and people that are involved with the Ultimate Fighting Championship. Interesting that the Ultimate Fighting Championship should be in the mix, I think, but some of these guys have decided we're going to carry on with our lives. We're going to do it in a place that is inviting that carrying on, and one of those places is Texas, and we'll go down to Austin and put on a comedy show. And they caught COVID, came home to California with the COVID, and are now in quarantine, but not feeling so bad. And so they're still promoting, and millions of people are watching this, and they're saying it's not that bad. Why don't we just get it over with? Everybody's going to get COVID eventually. Let's just get it over with. Except, of course, those people with the compromised systems, they need to kind of isolate. There's a deer that's very upset with me down here. I hear all kind of snorting. He's in the brush there. He's in the choke cherry. You're giving yourself away. So the people with the compromised systems, or older people that are at the most high threat for COVID to do bad things to them, those people should stay in their social isolation while the rest of the public goes about our lives and makes our economy go back online, And here in Lethbridge, that's being carried out. Basically, everybody is back to normal, except in the stores, you'll see a few people, the vast minority, wearing masks. And of course, there are like social distancing protocols and stuff that are kind of half followed. And but it was starkly different in Medicine Hat when I was over there yesterday with Chelsea for the emergency appointment. There, it reminded me of Lethbridge when we first got back from Costa Rica. where the streets were barren, the stores were closed, only the essential services were open, and only the people that really need to be in those essential services were there at the moment. They were obviously taking it way more seriously 2.5 hours away to the east than we are here. And I think that, depending on where you live and the particular kind of microculture of that area, we are experimenting with, risk behavior. It's not really experimenting, because people will argue, no, we've been doing this all along. It's only recently that we've been buckling down to try to stop a virus like COVID. That just happened, right? That just happened. That's not our usual history of experience. Usually, if there's a big pandemic, it wipes out most of us, and then we pick up our pieces. I think this is a very unique time because we knew the history of viruses. We saw what was coming. It was on the radar. We put on the brakes to different activities when we needed to. We didn't have a really good backup plan. How are we going to live with a protocol that fits these conditions? But we at least staved off the transmission to the extent that we could, and we're still in the midst of that kind of thing. And of course there's a lot of pressure to release that, and people are just releasing where they can. In fact, that's why I think 4th of July today in the US is just going to be a free-for-all. It's going to be nuts, So I heard somebody comment the other day that, well, all of that work that we did at the beginning, the lockdown that we did at the beginning, it's all like useless now because we've gone back to this. We have to lock down again, I don't know. If you've been following my channel, you've seen me from the very beginnings of this, all the way through this whole COVID thing. But one of the thoughts that were coming to my mind today was, I've been looking at those guys like Brendan Schaub, and Brian Collin, and who've tested positive for COVID and basically went out and danced with the devil to get it, And even though they might not get very badly sick or whatever, I've recognized that the feeding that virus, feeding it. Oh, look at this. This is the skunk brush sumac, and its progression. It's a really high vitamin C berry that'll be coming up. That risk behavior, I've kind of been critical of it because I've seen it as selfish. You're putting the elders at risk. And I still feel that way because, that's what it amounts to. The coronavirus is deadly. And what are we doing when we're saying, well, we're going to isolate only those people that are really strongly at risk for bad things to happen? Well, our elders don't want to be isolated like that. especially in kind of cultures with traditionally large extended families that get together all the time. You know, the elders are the most ready to do the risk behavior in a lot of cases. But, so I've been kind of critical of it, but at the same time, looking at it from that kind of, what do you call it? The legacy perspective that I was talking about before. You know, what's our legacy going to be? You know, in a way, looking at what these guys are doing with the risk behavior, even in the face of COVID, but just in general, you know, really kind of pushing the envelopes in athletics. They're all into that. They're all, you know, into kind of controlled, but substance use, right? To mind-altering stuff like, you know, tobacco, alcohol, marijuana, other hallucinogens. They publicly promote that. Some of them have been fighters. Many of them are involved in the martial arts world. This is all familiar stuff to me too, you know, and probably to a lot of people, which is why that little niche of entertainers right now is so interesting for everybody, because there's a relatability. There's a relatability to that risk behavior, certainly for myself as well. But in that legacy perspective, isn't the risk behavior, shouldn't that be the rewarded behavior? You know, shouldn't push in the envelope instead of hey, let's make the world a little bit more nerfed so that the kid with the peanut butter allergy doesn't have a allergic reaction. No kids can bring peanut butter to the school. Maybe instead of that, maybe we should weed peanut butter allergy out by not hampering it, you know. In that case, there's other cases like coronavirus. I could go either way, really. The idea that we could get herd immunity if we could just have some exposure and get it over with, fine. You know, that might work, might not. I could also go with the notion that we could starve this thing out, because we already did the groundwork for that. Why we didn't finish the job. It reminds me of the way that the U.S. goes to war. It wants to keep profiting off the pain of the thing instead of finishing the fucking job. It allows the creature to live. Get up. We're This is the 4th of July. I shouldn't be talking like this, but it's how I think. And I was in the U.S. Army. I think I've earned the rights to say what I have to say about whatever in that regard. But it does remind me of that. Letting the opponent continue to live. Why? In the case of the coronavirus, why? Well, there's the argument. We can be stronger if we were herd immune rather than staving it off and waiting for something similar to erupt and take a big toll, you know? I get that. And it without injury to my eye, I don't know if I would sway back toward that perspective as much, you know? But my eye always reminds me of the big schema, right? The long term. And who knows what my long term looks like with this eye. We'll see. Almost to the river. Iiksiksikoyiítahtaa. Wow, this little crag is all new. This wasn't here last week or even days ago when I was driving skunks down into the park. That's a pretty steep drop over a couple of days, or a land fissure. It's interesting, hey? Coulee's always eroding. This isn't normally where public would drive anyway, but this is a place where I would drive. Right now, there's kind of a runoff on this side. Hey? Squeeze point over here. I'm sure I could still make it through with a truck if I was careful where I passed over and this kind of thing, but that's quite a bit of erosion in a couple of days. That thing must have been running. We did have really good thunder and lightning last night. Some heavy rains. I filmed a little bit of it. Maybe I'll show you a clip. We'll go to the river. Well, my Apple Health app says I've gone about 13 kilometers so far today. And I am tired, but I'm glad that I hiked all the way down here to the little rapid. Little right now because the water's so high. Iiksiksikoyiítahtaa. So this is my farthest out point. I've probably got 6 kilometers or so back to the house. I'm gonna go up this coulee here, which is different. Should take me back behind some of the houses in Legacy Ridge, and yeah, we'll see what we see, if we see anything worth noting. If not, who knows, I may end the video right here because this is pretty nice.